Mhm.
written in their hearts, their
Yes.
conscience also bearing witness, and
Yes.
their thoughts, meanwhile, accusing or else excusing one another.
All right. And so when we think about that, it's interesting to note that Paul is presenting here an argument in response to the Jews, all right, those who knew God, and then the Gentiles, of course, who don't know God but yet have this moral response. And he's showing, of course, that there are certain things by nature within us as human beings that we know T. Where did it come from? Well, it only makes sense to understand that it came from a God who himself knows right and wrong and could have then delivered it to his creation. And that's why the moral argument, all right, is one of the most potent arguments for the existence of God. For example, there are supernatural similarities within the moral codes of different cultures within different periods of time. Of course, there are going to be slight exceptions concerning that, but you see some commonalities in these moral codes. For example, we have murder. Murder is wrong. Speaking the truth is right. Honesty. All these things, and so we could talk about different cultures from different periods of time, and you see these commonalities amongst these different cultures. It speaks to the fact that this morality, it does not come from evolution. It didn't just come up with man. It comes from the fact that it is built in into man. All right? And with that, where did it come from? It came from a God who created us and who made us. It makes sense. I can remember
Do
reading an
people,
article many years
before you
ago.
continue,
Uh-huh. Go
before you
ahead.
continue, do people
Yes.
still make another conclusion, even though the argument of morality is quite evident? Do people still make another conclusion to say that it is something else other than God? And what are those conclusions that they make?
Some try to state that it is all about learned behavior. All right.
Hmm,
And that's the reason why I threw in that passage there. Because what Paul does, he shows beyond the shadow of a doubt. And outside of scripture, there are studies that have been done that show that it has nothing to do with only learned behavior. All right. There are certain things that we could, as a people, realize it's built in into us. We have this particular standard, and so when you start talking about morals and ethics and that kind of stuff, we are talking about a standard. And so then you have to ask yourself, where did the standard come from? Even if you're going to say it's being taught, it is taught by people, where did they get it from? And ultimately, the logical answer to that, it's from God. And God shows that in His Word, and that's where the connection starts to take place. You can start here with someone and then bring them to the fact that God has given these moral codes throughout His Word. All right? There are those who would look at, for example, the Old Testament, and they would look at Moses giving the law, and there are those who try to shoot that down, and they say that by and large, when Moses was around, writing wasn't available, so it couldn't be that this law was ever given and written down. There are those who try to say that, but it's interesting to note that there is writing that predates Moses, that proves that there was writing in that period of time. This particular proof is found in what is called inscription called the Code of Hammurabi. All right, the Code of Hammurabi was a set of moral codes that was from Mesopotamia that predates the laws given to the Jews. All right, and that is proof that writing was available, and also proof that some form of morals was in play. All right, and that in no way contradicts the Bible, because prior to the Jews receiving the law, God had interaction with the patriarchs, and He would have made them know what was right and wrong in basically how they dealt with certain things. So we use that in particular to prove that writing was available in the time of Moses for those who try to say that writing wasn't. All right, that's just a by the side thing. All right, and so it's interesting when we start getting into these things, we start realizing that the world that we live in is also testament to the fact that the God of the Bible exists. All right, and so understand the progression in this particular field. We begin with the existence of God, and now what we'll find out, that it's true that many people believe in the existence of God, but their concept might be skewed. All right, and that's why when we start with the existence of God, we've got to bring them to the inspiration of the scripture, and show that the Bible is authoritative, that it is the only book that has been sanctioned by God for the sake of God communicating with mankind. All right, proof of that is within the text itself, and proof of that is outside of the text. For example, there has been no book, and there will be no book, I believe, that will beat the Bible based on its translation. There is no book that is more translated than the Bible. All right, year in, year out, first place for that. Okay, and why is that the case? That is because the God who gave His word knew what He was doing. God knew that if He had a message that He wanted to go to all of mankind, that this is a book that had to be translated in so many different languages. What's very interesting, that some major languages or major religions today, their holy book, for example, might have been only within the last 50